Welcome to our second session of the day. We are so happy that you are still with us. And if you're new and weren't able to make the presentation this morning, welcome. I just want to give a couple of reminders before our speaker comes up. Most of our sessions today are being recorded, and you could find the recordings on our YouTube station. Subscribe down below, hit like. We have over 80 videos that are on our YouTube channel. A lot of very beneficial information, so we hope that you can become a subscriber. For Palm Beach County teachers, if you were not able to register in ELM, we did open up some new slots, so you could try it again. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, and hopefully you'll be able to register for some points. Today, we have a very full day. We have Tanya here from Adobe. We have Discovery Education coming up. After lunch, we have Flipgrid, a wonderful presentation with Flipgrid and Brain Pop. And then you don't want to miss our closing speaker, Kevin Honeycutt. I promise you it will be a treat. If you tweet, please use the hashtag EdTechPBC, EdTechPBC. We would love to see you in action, listening to the presenters. We want you engaged in the chat. The chat is actually to the right. And we have members of the EdTech team who are there to moderate the chat. So if you have any questions about anything, attendance or ELM or any other questions, our moderators have a wrench by their name and they can answer all those questions. We do have a question right now that we would like for you to start engaging in conversation. Basically, we'd like to know, how did you spark student engagement during remote learning this past time when we were working remotely? What were some of the tools that you used? What were some of the strategies that you used to engage students? Tanya has a wonderful presentation that she's going to show us about Adobe Spark and how to actually give students a voice. I can't wait for that, but we really want to know what you were able to do. Finally, before I read Tanya's bio, we have door prizes. We have two. We have 4 in the first session. We have 2 wonderful prizes in this session. So in order to be eligible to win your door prizes, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Just make sure you're doing some chatting and engaging conversation in the chat box. Tanya Avrith, I'm so excited to have her here. She's been with us a couple of times. She is incredibly awesome. She's the co-author of the Google Infused Classroom and a newly released Microsoft Infused Classroom. She's a Google certified innovator, an Apple distinguished educator, and an Adobe education leader. As an advocate for student voice, Tanya believes in the power of storytelling in education. She has seen stories help kids explore their creativity, construct their identities, and connect with others firsthand, a principle that she has had the privilege of spreading with the help of Adobe Education as their education evangelist. So please join me in welcoming Tanya.
Thank you, Tasha. And I'm always so grateful to be here in Palm Beach County. For those of you who know me, I actually live in Boynton. So this is my community. And whenever I have the opportunity to come and work in my community, it is the most joyful experience. And so I'm so grateful to be back with you this morning to talk a little bit about Adobe Spark through the lens of blended learning. And so if you're new to Adobe Spark, this is a great session. And if you're not new, I'm going to be sharing a ton of resources and lessons and ideas and resources by the end of the session. So new or old to my sessions, you will get something or a little something from it. So thank you so much for being here this morning. As Tasha mentioned, I do work at Adobe. However, I am a teacher. I will always be a teacher first. I have been working in education for over 15 years, and this is my life, my passion, and my everything. And until just this year, I was teaching full-time. And so my passion for what we're going to be talking about around through the lens of empowering students to really be able to use their voices through creativity is really what is my philosophy around teaching and learning. And I'm going to share a little bit with that about that today. So very quickly, if you're not familiar with what Adobe Spark is, let me just kind of clarify a little bit for you. First of all, Adobe Spark is free for students. It is a free tool for all, but at schools and districts, particularly I know for sure at Palm Beach County, you have access to the paid version of Spark, and it's through your student and I guess your teacher portal where you would go and find your apps. If you don't have it, you would just go to spark.adobe.com/edu, and if you're at another district that doesn't have the education version, and you'd be able to get your school district to connect through their either Microsoft logins or Google logins to have access for your students. And those are oh my gosh, I'm at a loss for words. Those accounts, being live, those accounts are COPA and FERPA compliant, meaning like you don't have to worry about privacy laws, about all of those pieces that happen when you have commercial accounts. They are safe for kids. So what is Spark? Basically, and I'm going to go over that in a second, Spark is a tool, and let me go back, that allows you to create beautiful graphics, stunning web pages, and beautiful and easy to create videos. And so I have these 3 examples that I love to show, and just to kind of give you some context of what's possible. So let me just go back. So this is a Spark video, and it has the ability to add video. It has the ability to add audio, music.
I will charge my laptop every night and bring it to school.
You can add pictures, icons. And what's really nice about it is if you are on a Chromebook or an iPad or a phone or a computer, you're able to access all of our apps and any device. And so that's what's really nice about it. It's it's agnostic to device, it's web-based, and there's apps for your iOS devices. So you basically can use it anywhere, and it will sync similar to the way that Google will sync wherever you are. And so this is a really great tool for creativity and creation. You also have the 3 apps. So, and I will show a little bit more examples, but you have the ability to create stunning graphics and these web pages that are multimedia. So you can embed videos and add pictures. And so all of these beautiful creativity tools are free and available to you. Yeah, you at Palm Beach County, especially, you know, for your students, and you have these in your classroom. And so in today's quick session, what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about blended learning through the lens of Adobe Spark, talk a little bit about the pedagogy, and then I'm going to share some examples of Spark post, video, and page. And I will add lesson ideas with hyperdocs and resources, lesson plans for you to get going right away. So this webinar is not just come in and one-time access, but I'm also going to give you the code to my session, so you'll have access to all the links attached that I show as well. So first of all, I think it's important to kind of frame this session through the lens of teaching and learning. And, you know, as we're kind of in this space right now where we don't really know where things are going to stand come September or August for that matter, I think it's really important to start thinking and preparing for all the different, variations of what might be. And one of the options that will probably present itself is around blended learning. And it's really important to distinguish what blended learning really means, because I think there's a lot of education buzzwords that we'll hear, but to really distinguish what that actually means for learners, I think is super important. So first of all, when we talk about blended learning, it really has to do with having your learners learning part-time through an online learning environment, but also perhaps that movement would happen face-to-face, but it provides your learner with the opportunity to kind of choose and have an element of control in terms of, you know, when and where they're working. And that's very much like the new normal right now, because, you know, when you have students working remotely, you can't necessarily oversee that they're working at math at 10 a.m., right? And so the way that you design your instruction to provide flexibility is part of that whole process around teaching through a blended learning environment. Also, what's really powerful through blended learning is that the devices, the technology is actually being used to help personalize the student's learning experience. So you're able to differentiate, you're able to provide multiple modalities. So it's a lot more than just let's put a video and now we're in blended learning, right? It's really about instructional design and the opportunities that you provide for your learners to have choice and voice through their learning journey. And also, it's really a great shift in enabling learners to have that integrated learning experience. And I hope that that is something that won't end when we kind of go back to quote unquote normal. However, I don't think anything will ever be normal. I actually did a webinar here in Palm Beach County a few weeks ago on HyperDocs, and I've linked it to this slide. So later on when you get my resources, have a look at that webinar. I don't want to get into it too much because it's a whole other webinar, or almost like a PhD, honestly. But it's really about how you effectively design a blended learning environment. And that's what a good HyperDoc will do. But I'm not going to focus necessarily on this. What I want to look at it is through the lens of creativity and how we can really think about the layers of pedagogy and where we might have Spark fit in through those layers of pedagogy. So when you're designing instruction in your class, very often you're going to be thinking about your learner and how you can really reach your learners, every single learner in your class, and you're designing with that end in mind. And that end should always be not the content, but the learner that you are working with, that individual learner. And it's not just all learners, it's the learners in your class. And so you will really start thinking about, well, how would I design for those kids? And so the things that will always be true are you're thinking about ways that you can capture understanding, check for understanding, and gather rich information about where they are during their learning process. And that's formative assessment. Then once you gather that rich information, when it could be that you're looking, that you're observing, that you're giving a quick quiz to get an understanding. It could be that you are, having a Flipgrid video where you see and ask a question. It could be that you're using, maybe you're using a post in Adobe Post, and you do I see, think, wonder as a thinking routine, and you get an understanding of whatever that is. You're checking to see where your learners are, and then what you're doing is you're designing in a more differentiated way, and that could be through through Google Classroom. It could be that you're designing effective HyperDocs. Maybe you're flipping and cloning yourself with some video instruction to help reach some of your different learners, and then you are getting kids to make more meaning of the content that they're working on. And when they're making more meaning through the content, and they're pulling through their understandings, and you want them to show their learning, one of the things that you can do is you get them to demonstrate their learning, right? You get them to apply their learning. You get them to share their thought process. You get them to have their own voices and make that visible. And the way you can do that is through Spark. It's one of the most beautiful ways to get kids to demonstrate their learning. They can create a video. They can explain themselves in a web page. They can create a research project with visuals that include interviews. Like those pieces all come together. And one of those tools that you might use in your toolbox is Spark. And then finally, we want kids to learn how to curate their work, to show their understanding and pull the best pieces that they have. And we want them to be reflective practitioners. And these are all things that I would do through Spark. And before I get into Spark, I want to just leave with this, and this is super important because I'm always thinking about the end in mind, and I'm always thinking about how I can really utilize the technology in my classroom so that it really has a maximum, the maximum effect for my learners. And there's three things that I always want you to consider in any tool, not just Spark, but in any tool. And I talk about this in the Google and Microsoft infused classrooms, but with Holly Clark. And one of those things that we talk about is this learning framework. And basically, this is what happens when tech is being used effectively. One, it helps your students make their thinking visible, meaning it provides you with a lens so that every learner in your class, it doesn't matter what their learning style is able to articulate their understanding. And so one of the best ways you can do that is literally just having kids talk through their thinking process and recording that. So a Spark video is a great opportunity for kids to do something like that. It provides learners you with insight in terms of what's happening. And I'm sorry, but a multiple choice test does not give you that kind of rich information. It will give you an answer, but that doesn't mean that you understand where the learner is coming from and how they are thinking through their responses. It could be a guess, maybe they get it, maybe they don't, but providing learners with an opportunity to really articulate their understanding is so important. Two, and this is so important, it is so important, especially in a culturally responsive classroom. It's important that we are really considering every learner in our class to have a voice. And this is more important now than it's always been important, but this is so important that we are conscious of this, that we provide every learner in our class with an opportunity to have a voice, always. And so we should not just be hearing from the first 3 learners that raise their hand because they're developmentally more mature, they have more confidence, they are encouraged at home, it's maybe more cultural. Whatever the case is, we need to provide every learner in our class with equitable access to a voice. And so when we empower kids with tools that do that, we are allowing our students to have that voice, and that is so important. And not just voice, but choice and agency and how they demonstrate their learning. This is so important. And finally, it provides learners with an opportunity to share their work and to make it meaningful so that it's not just for you. It's not just going to go into Google Classroom and turned in, but that they can see each other's work, or that it can be posted somewhere and celebrated and actually mean something to them. Because if they're only doing work for you, they know it. If it's only going to be for a grade, then they know that it's not worth more than the effort of putting a grade in is worth. The learning is so much more important when it is shared. And so this is really powerful. And we want to give student creations really some power. We want them to shine. And that's why I love Spark. And honestly, I was using it as a teacher before I joined the team. So it sounds like I'm selling this, but this is something that I was a pilot school for a year and a half before it even launched. It's something that I used with learners for a very long time. And so I really do believe that it provides learners with the ability to do those things that I was telling you about. So how do you access it? As I mentioned, you can either go to spark.adobe.com, or you can download the apps on your iOS devices. And there's 3 apps. It's Adobe Spark Post, Spark Page, and Spark Video. And if you, again, are at a district, most likely it would be through your single sign-on where you would find your apps. So let me kind of share some examples with you. So let's start with Post. Post is really a tool that for the most part, for lack of a better word, it's a graphics tool, okay? It provides a beautiful platform, easy to use, where you can easily create beautiful visual graphics. Now, if you're using the iOS version, there's a little more functionality. You can add animation, you can add video embedded inside the actual visual. So it's really also, it was originally like created for designers or artists or graphic artists that, or people who are not necessarily super familiar with Photoshop per se, but who do want to be able to create for their small business, who have, who are sharing on social media and want to elevate their voice. So it's a really great tool to empower every person to create beautiful visual messages and communicate with impact. And this is great, but when you transfer that into education and you start rethinking what's possible through the lens of teaching and learning, there's all these opportunities that arise. And I love this example, and it was shared with my friend Claudio Zavala Jr. And he had, I think he worked with this teacher, with his learners, and they created this really great graphic around the Emancipation Proclamation, and it's really like meant to be a comic, right? And so a comic strip. So just kind of like to be able to break down understanding and to share your thought process in a creative way, this is a great tool to do something like that. These are some examples of actual student work through some of the lessons or hyperdocs that I've created with the use of Spark Post. And so some of the examples here are, I had students use Spark Post to create a graphic about themselves. So if you're familiar with Humans of New York, Humans of New York, which was, I can't remember right now at the top of my head, but he's a really famous photographer in New York who basically went around New York snapping pictures and interviewing people around the city, and it really took off. And so I have this lesson that was actually designed originally by Sarah Landis, who is or was it Kelly Hilton, who was one of the creators of the hyperdocs. And I reformatted it. And so you have it here. So what a great idea to start the school year off, right? Where you can have kids really like introduce themselves, maybe even interview someone else, get to know each other, and then create this graphic and share it out. And in this case, I had them share it on a Padlet. You could have them share it on something called a Wakelet, but you want to be able to, on a shared slide deck, have them each choose a slide, but you want them to be able to share out their work and see each other and learn from each other. And this is a great way to start the year. And then what I do is I teach kids about creation and design literacy. And so this is actually a lesson that I share here, where I have kids talking about creative literacy and I walk them through how to design with more impact. Because I think we assume that kids visually understand, but the reality, and for those of you who probably teach 3rd and 4th grade, you know this, you give a kid a slide deck, the first thing they want to do is add a ton of animation, yellow background, pink writing, and then they're done. Mic drop. Like, that's my presentation. You're like, no. So you want to teach them how to create with impact. And there are actual strategies that I have put into this lesson that will do that. And I mean, that's a workshop that I'll do with adults as well. It's called Friends Don't Let Friends Use Word Art. But basically, it's teaching the importance of creative literacy. And there is a way to teach kids how to create better. And then there's another lesson plan called My Happy Place. And this is getting kids to take a virtual field trip. And this is really powerful for kids to be able to kind of explore the world. And I app smash with Google Maps. And so they found their graphic, their happy place, and then I put a shared map, and they had to add the graphic inside so you could go on a virtual field trip and look at each other's happy spaces. And you can obviously turn this into a deeper conversation, and where it doesn't just have to be about your happy place, but it could be tied to something you're studying in history, it could be around a historical trail, it could be embedded through the lens of history and geography. So this can really be taken further, but really engaging kids to create and be part of their learning journey. And there's so many options and opportunities for kids to do that. Another thing that is really powerful that I've had my students do, and what's really great with Spark is that you can create your own brand, meaning you can design a logo, and inside the version that you have access to, there's a branding feature, which means that you can customize the look and feel of student work. And and you can add multiple brands. So you can have a class brand. You can have you can have a class channel on Twitter that you're showcasing student work if it's allowed by your school. And you can have a logo for your class. You can have the kids do media takeovers, a great way to teach kids about digital citizenship. So all of these, all of this is really tied into more authentic learning experiences. If kids are really thinking about solving authentic problems, then have them provide a company or create a company and have a logo and go outside of their thinking and actually do something that actually matters. When kids are engaged in something that matters to them, they're going to work so much harder when they know that it's not just for a grade or for you, right? So I've had students do this where they create their own logos and they design their own authentic look and feel. And I actually had them creating these personal narratives. And all of this is linked in here, and I'm going to share a few later, but this was all connected to how they were kind of showcasing their work. And this is also great for kids to demonstrate their learning, create portfolios. So all of this is connected to all the pedagogy that I shared earlier. They demonstrate, they curate, they reflect on their learning, but all of that has a look and feel so that when we look at their work, we know it's theirs and they know it's theirs and they are proud of their work. And ultimately in my class, I had kids sharing out on social. They were in high school. It was part of the culture of my school, but that was part of developing their brand, because one day, not if, but when, they will be Googled. And so when they are Googled, how are they telling that story? How are they showcasing their thinking? What are we going to find when we Google them? Right? This is something we need to be thinking about even for our younger learners as they're starting to get online and create. And so this is a great opportunity to teach those skills. And it's not just for one class. This is for, as a parent, this is for every teacher thinking about their learners. How are we providing them with opportunities to contribute to their digital presence? What are they creating that matters that they could share? And so this all kind of comes back to the way that we have kids thinking about their visual aesthetic and how they're designing. Another thing that I had my students do was a manifesto project. And this is such another great lesson. Again, this was more of a high school project. My kids were, I had students that were from 9th through 12th grade. This could also be done with, I think genuinely could be done with mature 7th graders and mature 8th graders, but definitely, the 8th, 9th and up. And so my essential question with the students was, what do I desire? Really looking at my passion and the things that are important to me. And, when you think about what a manifesto really is, it's really a statement. This is a very powerful lesson to do with students, to have those conversations. And it's, kids are exploring who they are. But again, this was something that I did, and look how beautiful. These are 3 examples. Honestly, they were all stunningly beautiful, but I was teaching them explicitly about design and aesthetics. And they didn't come to me with these skills. I promise you, this was stuff after a ton of formative feedback, go back, they came up with. And I actually have a compilation of those manifestos that you can look at later that are tied over here. So if you're going through my presentation when I'm gone and you're wondering, how do I use these tools? Just FYI, I have these video tutorials embedded for each tool inside of this lesson that you're gonna get at the end of this session in just a bit. So then we have Spark Video, and I love Spark Video. It is so simple to use. You can use it around in any age, and it's a great tool for students to demonstrate their learning. And I'm actually going to share this example over here. I'm going to open this up. And this is one of my very favorite examples. This is this teacher, I forget where he's located, but what he has his students do is he actually has a website, and the kids, it's attached to the library. So like, this is great for media specialists, but not just for media specialists. It can be tied to your ELA teachers as well. And this is like in lieu of a book report. And so what he has the students do is they read their book, and then they have to use only, and this is what's super powerful. They can only use icons to demonstrate their learning. And you have to think, like, if you're only using icons, you have to think about keywords. You have to understand the best visual that's paired with the word. You have to be able to synthesize your ideas very succinctly. It's actually a lot harder than it sounds to come up with a video that only is using icons and voiceover. So I'm going to show you very quickly what that looks like.
Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling. Harry can't wait to get back to Hogwarts, but when a strange creature doesn't want Harry to leave because something bad will happen at Hogwarts, Harry has to find a way to get out without the creature knowing. Characters: Harry, a daring, brave boy. Ron, Harry's.
All right, so I don't know how great the audio is. Sometimes it can be choppy when you're doing this through, let me get out of here. Here we go. When you're doing this through a StreamYard, but it is really powerful when learners are able to articulate in such a concise way. And that's what I like about Spark Video. So you're going to learn about Flipgrid as well today with Anne, who's one of my closest friends. I adore her. And Flipgrid's awesome. And we use these tools in conjunction. And very often you're thinking like, okay, I have this tool. Why would I use all these tools? Because different tools provide learners with different opportunities to make their thinking visible and for different purposes through their learning journey. And one of the ways that I love Spark is it's a really great place, especially video, for kids to synthesize and carefully plan out larger, thoughtful demonstrations. This is not a one-off video that maybe you would use. This requires planning and thinking. So this is great instead of your very stereotypical 5-paragraph essay. Fine, they write an essay, they pull together words, but they have to be able to tell things visually. That's a skill. Writing a paragraph is one, and now making a video with impact is another. And in 2020, when we look at mainly media and imagery on social, where we're not necessarily writing in newspapers as our only means anywhere for communicating our ideas and our messages, this is equally, if not now more important, because this is the media and the medium that our younger generation is watching and listening to. So we need to shift our thinking, because being able to demonstrate understanding and communicate with impact through visual and video medium is very important in today's day and age. And so these are tools, very easy to use. I've used it with kindergartners because it's just a matter of, and as I mentioned, you can go in here later. And these are tutorials, 5 minutes, you'll learn how to use it. It's super easy. This is not a click workshop of how to, because you're gonna be able to figure that out really fast. It's super simple, but I wanted you to understand why you would, right? And again, I have lesson plans here. These are I am poems. This is a great start. This could be done even with high school kids, and then they take it further where they have, this is like, kind of like I am is the beginning, and then they can take it further through let me take a selfie. And this is like a great activity to get kids at the beginning of the year to really, again, be able to introduce themselves, especially if you're in a blended learning environment, especially if you're not going to be face-to-face with the kids. You need to take the time to get to know them at the beginning of the year. And this will be a great opportunity to really think through that process in a creative way. So the last one, and it's one, again, it's insanely powerful tool. And these are actually some examples of my students' work, is Spark Page. And basically, again, it's a scrolling web page. I would say it's basically something that you would tell a visual story with. It wouldn't necessarily be like a zillion stories. It would be one story. It would be one portfolio. Maybe it's the end of the school year, you're pulling out your best pieces of work, or you can use it for personal narratives, or you can use it for research or reframing the research paper. I've had kids use this, that they've taken their college essays that they would put into their Common App, and which they still had to do, but they pulled in visuals, imagery, video. They turned their college apps into multimedia experiences through Spark Page, and then turned that in with their Common App for college. So this is a great skill to get kids to really rethink and reimagine very static writing activity, that they can engage multimedia exercise with and pair with visuals. This is really higher level thinking, and then taking away from the traditional research paper, like really giving them a platform where their voice will have impact, because this will do their work justice. So this is a great example. This is my student Savannah. She's such an incredible artist, and so what she did is she wanted to talk about the journey of being an artist. And I highly recommend, I'm not gonna have time to watch the video, but watch her video. And she talks about her journey as an artist, not always being a clear, straight line, that she worked hard to get to this place where she is an artist today, but it didn't look like that when she started. And I think that kind of grit and that tenacity of understanding as a young learner that you don't just get there just by being an artist to start, but understanding and being able to showcase the journey is insanely powerful for any learner. But to be able to articulate that in a powerful way is probably a teacher's greatest accomplishment. I'm so proud of their work. This was another student of mine, Savannah, and her grandfather saved Jews during the Holocaust in their basement. And so she interviewed him and then shared his story out in a visual way. So what a great way to kind of showcase primary source, real history, and then to be able to share that in a powerful way. I mean, it's just insanely incredible to be able to do that. This is actually the unit that I use to teach that whole, this is a link to the unit. So you can go in and have a look at my unit. And it was like a 2 or 3 week unit that I did every day with my learners to get them to this place. They didn't just show up like this. There was a lot of thinking and learning that went into this process. So this is an this over here is another video to teach you how to use Spark Page. Now I only have a few minutes, so I really want to make sure that you understand that you can share the work out. What's really great about Spark is it allows you to either download or publish the link, and so that you can share this on Google Classroom and Google Slides and Padlet and Wakelet. So it's important to be able to know where to share. And just to kind of get you started, I wanted to make sure that you knew where to go. I have all of these lesson plans. I have ready to go lesson plans. My friend in the UK, my counterpart, Dominic Trainer, he has all these amazing activities for kids. It's using iOS, but the activities are awesome. You could probably fix them up, and they could still be understood on Chromebook. And then Claudio Zavala Jr. has an awesome playlist. Now, for those of you who are wondering, where do I access these resources? Please go to bit.ly/Palm Beach EdTech, and you will access today's resources. Once you're on here, be sure to sign up on the bottom, there's a link. And in about 2 weeks, we are launching, and I'm so excited. Palm Beach, I want you guys to be the first. Okay, and so you can get early access. We are launching in a few weeks our new Adobe Creative Educator program. And so this is a badging program. You can come and join our community, be part of our community. And there's this amazing 1 hour, basically you take this 1 hour course that was designed by, her name is Rebecca Hare. She's an educator. She's a current educator and a designer. So we really wanted it to be owned by educators, not be owned by, let's say, it is amazing course. And so you take this 1 hour course, you can get your badge as a first level 1. We will have level 2 coming. And so it's part of our community. You will access our resources, our Facebook page. You will get access to these amazing cards. There's all kinds of really great stuff. So when you come on, make sure to get early access, sign up. This is going to be launching in just a few weeks. So yeah, my alarm is probably going to go off in just a second. I know I had a very hard stop, and I want to be respectful of my hard stop. So please feel free to reach out to me. I'm at Tanya Avrith on Twitter, or avrith@adobe.com. If you have any questions, Please know that I'm local as well. If you want me to, even when I cannot wait for things to calm down. If you want to invite me to your school to do this with your teachers and have a bigger workshop, I'm in Palm Beach County, people. Bring me in. I would be happy to do it. So thank you so much. And thank you for coming today and doing this work. You're amazing. All right, I am done.
Thank you so much, Tanya. That was awesome. The chat is off the hook. You just don't even know how great praise that they have been sharing about you and everything you're sharing and your enthusiasm for education. So thank you again so much for everything you do. Help us here. So with that, I appreciate you, Tanya. I'm going to take you away for just a few minutes while we do our door prizes, and I'll come back and allow you to have the last word. So everyone in the chat, thank you so much for joining us. We want to thank all of these amazing companies for sharing something with us today to give away. I know the chat has been going absolutely crazy with all of the information on how to enter. So you must at least type in your in the chat at least once in the past 10 minutes. We only need you to type once. We don't need a whole bunch of spamming. We can only ship to the USA. So if you are a winner and you're not from the USA, just let our moderators know and we will redraw, or we will just give it away through all those who registered in the Eventbrite. Also, the winner will need to contact Dana Rubenstein, and that information will be in the chat box and on the next slide as well. So what do we have this session? We're going to have 2 prizes this session. Both of them are graciously given through Tanya with Adobe and her book. So we thank her for that. So our first prize is a year to the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite, 1 year for free. So I know that Tasha will be drawing for the winner, and I know it goes quick, so they'll be looking for the winner. So whoever has won the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite, congratulations. And what will happen is we will get back to you. We'll share your information to Tanya, and then she'll set up how you get your prize. So again, hopefully at this point we have found a winner for this. Just so you know, the way that you're looking for a winner, that is one thing people got confused with in the last session. It's a little confusing. I see Farah Francois Upperman, looks like she won. What you have to understand is you're looking for the text from the Nightbot. So Tasha will put in the code, and then Nightbot will actually draw the winner. So that was our first one. Our second prize is a copy of the Google Infused Classroom, which is Tanya and Holly's book. And so Tanya, I'll have her on the screen too so you can see. Tanya will also be giving that book away. She does have it. It was right beside her, and we'll send that. Right, a great brand new fresh copy of her amazing book. It's got so many great things you can do. So Tasha hopefully will draw that winner for the copy of the Google Infused Classroom. Again, you're looking for the winner. It's the Nightbot is the guy who, or the girl who will show you who won this. And it looks like Cherie Austin won the Google Infused Classroom book. Congratulations. Again, both of you need to email Dana Rubenstein, which is on the slide right now, for her to get your information. Also, this was a little confusing in the last one as well. We have attendance at each session, so we're asking you, even if you don't need points, please sign up for the attendance. We're just trying to figure out who all is here. If you need points, you have to sign in. So the link is in the chat. All you have to do is click on it each session and choose the session, and then just tell us what you learned at the end there. We really are curious what you learned in this session. On behalf of the entire educational technology training team, and the EdTech team as a whole, thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate each and every single one of you. We are here to help in any way we can. We do work all summer, so please feel free to reach out. I do know Tanya also is always available to help. She wants to help. I saw quite a few people in the chat asking if Tanya does training, and yes, she does. So she loves to help us here in Palm Beach, and we do appreciate that. And so to end things, yes, please reach out to her for sure, right? And just to end here, we want to thank you so much for watching. Our next session starts in 15 minutes at bit.ly/ETI Discovery. Make sure you're case sensitive there. And just so you know, all of these links are on our website, on the Institute's website, so you don't have to keep waiting till the end for the next link. You just go to bit.ly Institute/Institute site, and that will take you to the site. You just click on the title of the session to join the waiting room for our next session. So we have Discovery Education up next. And with that, I'm going to give my friend Tanya the last few words to share before we end. Tanya?
Thank you. I'm reading your comments, and I'm like so honored to be here. I'm beyond, like, this is such a privilege to have this platform, and I thank you so much. And let's do good by our students. Like, let's do good by our students. Let's make sure that they have a voice and a platform, and they're able to share their stories. Let's empower them. We have the opportunities to do that as teachers. And so I think this is the best opportunity moving forward with, everything happening, that, now is the time. Let's give a voice to our kids. So thank you so much. Let's empower them with creativity. Thank you, guys.